Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And today I'm doing a different kind of video. I'm going to talk about my 10 favorite 3 album runs of all time. I think I saw a video on the Prog Corner. I think it was a live stream where they were talking about the best 3 album runs. And I wanted to put a more prog metal spin on it and bring my taste to the equation. Of course, they talked about a lot of classic prog rock bands, which I love, but I love a lot of the prog metal stuff. So you'll see a lot of that on my list. And basically, I'm only counting studio LPs for this, not live albums, not EPs, not demos. And I'm just talking about which bands had the best run of 3 in a row. And let's start with my number 10, which is Rush, and the 3 album run that I decided to go with. And I'm going to pull and show some vinyl and CDs for all of these. I think I have all of the CDs in my top 10 favorite 3 album, all of the vinyls and CDs. So I have physical copies of all of these, which is great. First, I decided the Rush 3 album run that I would go with. It's the one that starts with Hemispheres. Here I've got the 40th anniversary edition of it on vinyl, which is awesome. Hemispheres, which is just that 4-track album, which features Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres, Circumstances, The Trees, and La Villa Strangiato. Amazing album. And then after Hemispheres was Permanent Waves, which I love. That's from 1980. I think Hemispheres is 1978. And Permanent Waves is great. It's got The Spirit of Radio, Free Will, Jacob's Ladder, Entre Nous, Different Strings, and Natural Science. And then my favorite Rush album to end this run is Moving Pictures from 1981, which has Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, Limelight, The Camera Eye, Witch Hunt, and Vital Signs. Yeah, really awesome run of albums. And if you like Rush, I just put up a video of my ideal Rush set list. So check that out. Maybe if I remember, I'll put a link to it, but I'll probably forget. So look on my channel to try to find that. Next, at my number 9 3-album run, now we're getting into the prog metal stuff. That was my one classic pick. All my other ones are more modern from like the 2000s. That was my 70s and 80s pick. So I've got, and a lot of these I found the pattern is they're either, almost all of these are either the band's first 3 albums, or in some cases their last 3 albums. There is maybe one exception to that still coming up, or 2 exceptions still coming up, but a lot of that's what I find. So the next one I have is Periphery, and for them I'm actually going to go with their first 3 albums as my favorite 3-album run. So Periphery 1, their debut, awesome album. This just blew my mind when it came out. Kind of heard Periphery and Tesseract around a similar time, and it was the first time I ever heard anything that sounded like djent, and I just couldn't comprehend how crazy the rhythms were, and like the polyrhythms and the syncopation and the djent sound was just insane. And the way the riffs, the songwriting is just awesome. Periphery 1. And it might be a sentimental pick for why, but like, I feel like Periphery objectively has gotten better since this, but for some reason this is maybe my favorite Periphery album. It's the first one I heard and just love it. Then Periphery 2, another awesome album. Again, probably objectively better, technically speaking, than Periphery 1. Maybe this is my favorite Periphery album. I don't know. Pretty awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, for Periphery 1, it's hard to beat Icarus Lives, and the epic race car and jetpacks was Yes, and even like the opening track, Insomnia, and Butter Snips, the riff on that. But Periphery 2 has great stuff like Make Total Destroy. Scarlet is a catchy song. And then their third album is Juggernaut Alpha, which is awesome as well. This one gets more conceptual and proggy and less, I mean, it's still got gentiness to it, but it's not just about that. There's like more going on here in terms of genre. So in some ways you could say it's maybe even objectively better or more interesting than the first two. But again, I have a soft spot in my heart for the first two. So Periphery is my 9th favorite 3-album run. Now at number 8, I've got Thank You Scientist. And they've only got 3 albums. Okay, so they've got their debut. Excuse me. They've got Maps of Non-Existent Places, which is their debut. This one I think is from 2014. Then their second album, Stranger Heads Prevail, from 2016. Awesome stuff. And then their third album, which I have on vinyl, Terraformer. So really awesome 3-album run from them. These are their only 3 albums. And really looking forward to what they do next. Unfortunately, their vocalist from these 3 albums is no longer in the band, but they've got a new vocalist who I think will do a great job, and it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how they'll compare to the previous vocalist, but I have heard the new vocalist's other project, Karmic Juggernaut, and I really enjoy that. So I think they should do a great job. I forget the name of the new vocalist off the top of my head, but I'm looking forward to hearing what they do with them. All right. At number 7, I've got the Dillinger Escape Plan. My 7th favorite 3-album run would be, here's one that's not their first 3 or their last 3. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's their 3rd, 4th, and 5th albums. So starting with Ire Works, the second album to feature Greg Puciato on vocals. So their debut album has their original vocalist, I think his name's Dimitri. Their second album, they bring in Greg Puciato on vocals. Their third album, I feel like that's where they kind of perfected their sound. This is my favorite Dillinger Escape Plan album, although it's kind of hard to pick. All 3 of these could really be my favorite. So their third album, Ire Works, has epic tracks like opening with Fix Your Face. Black Bubblegum is kind of a quirky, catchy one. Milk Lizard's really got a really catchy riff. Horse Hunter, just amazing album. Option Paralysis came after that and is also awesome. And One of Us is the Killer is truly amazing album, and I have the poster back there behind me somewhere. You might know if it's in view here. Yep, there it is. Opening with Prancer is awesome. The catchy title track, Nothing's Funny, is also catchy. Just a really awesome album. Of course, this is like chaotic mathcore. This is probably the most intense band on my list. Well, there's one more that's pretty intense, but yeah, this is not for the faint of heart. Very intense mathcore stuff. Then at number 6, my 6th favorite 3-album run is by Tool. It is the one that starts with, and this is actually their newest 3 albums, so I'm going to start it with Lateralis, which I love. Has some awesome stuff. So like The Grudge, Schism, Lateralis, amazing tracks. I think most people call this. I think this is their most critically acclaimed album. My favorite of theirs is the next one after that, which is 10,000 Days, which has some great tracks like Vicarious, which is one of my favorite Tool tracks. This CD is kind of weird. It's got like glasses to look through, and I mean, these are like magnifying glass. You can kind of look at the weird holographic art or something on it. They always do some like weird stuff with their packaging. Like on the last one to complete this 3-album run, which is Fear Inoculum, like they don't even put the band name or the album name on this anywhere. It's not on the side. I guess if you look like really tiny, in really tiny letters, you can see it says Tool. But yeah, strange choice, but it is beautiful. I kind of wish they at least put the band name and album name on here. Fine if they didn't want to put it on the front, but that's a bit of an odd choice, but it's an awesome album. Fear Inoculum, the newest Tool album. Now at number 5. Okay, this might be a longer video than I thought, just showing all these physical things. My 5th favorite 3-album run is by Tesseract, and it's actually their first 3 albums, which are my favorite, although every album by Tesseract is great. But one was, again, along with Periphery 1, Tesseract's album called One. Those were my 2 first albums that had a djent sound to them that I heard, and I still feel like Periphery and Tesseract are like the 2 best djent bands. Of course, Meshuggah kind of invented the sound, and Sixth was kind of an early band to do it, and I love both Meshuggah and Sixth as well, but Periphery and Tesseract to me are kind of my favorite bands in that style. And yeah, I really love One. But then my favorite Tesseract album is the next one after that, which is Altered State, the one where they actually have Ash O'Hara on vocals. I do love Daniel Tompkins on One, but I really love this album here, Altered State, with Ash O'Hara on vocals. Blows my mind. And then Polaris, their 3rd album, Daniel Tompkins came back, and he does an awesome job too. But my favorite is still Altered State. But yeah, this is a really solid 3-album run, but really you can't go wrong. Any Tesseract album is awesome. And then my number 4 3-album run is going to be by Caligula's Horse. And with them, like, again, you can really choose any 3-album run. My favorite album by Caligula's Horse, well, it's so hard to say, but right now it might actually be, you know what, it could be their debut. It's maybe their debut or maybe their newest one. Really, it could be anything in the middle. But I'm going with my favorite 3-album run. I'm going to say it starts with In Contact from 2017, then Rise Radiant from 2020, and then their newest one, Charcoal Grace, which was my album of the year in 2024. I think it was my album of the year that year. I think it beat out Opeth, or did I give Opeth album of the year that year? Oh man, I can't even remember. But yeah, my number 3-album run is Haken. And it starts with Aquarius, their debut, an amazing concept album, just beautiful. My favorite track, Celestial Elixir, probably my favorite Haken track. And that's my favorite Haken album, is the debut. And Visions is their 2nd album, which is also amazing. It's an awesome epic on it to end the album, the epic title track. But then my 2nd favorite Haken album is their 3rd album, The Mountain. I think this is my 2nd favorite. Sometimes, it can change based on the day, but yeah, I love The Cockroach King. That one's awesome. Falling Back to Earth is awesome. Everything on here is awesome, really. And Haken's another band where they never go wrong. I take any album, they're all amazing. So now at number 2 My second favorite 2 album run, and again, my number 2 and my number 1 are basically tie. So I mean, they're interchangeable. Maybe before I get into them, I'll do some quick honorable mentions. So some that didn't make the list, but would probably be my next ones just outside my top 10 would be Avenged Sevenfold with City of Evil, their self-titled album, and Nightmare. Xanthocroid with Blessed He with Boils, which is their debut, followed by Of Earth and Axen Act 1, which is their second album, and Of Earth and Axen Act 2, their third album, which I'm actually featured on in their choir. Amazing cinematic black metal. And then The Human Abstract needs an honorable mention with their first 3 albums, Nocturne, Midheaven, and Digital Veil. They probably would have been on the list if Midheaven was a little stronger. I think Digital Veil is their best album, and it's amazing. Nocturne's amazing. Midheaven is still really good, but Nocturne and Digital Veil are masterpieces, and I feel like Midheaven's a near masterpiece. It's kind of flawed, and the singer had a lot more creative control there. I know the band doesn't like it. I still really like it. And then some other bands that kind of missed out on the top 10 that you might expect to see there are Dream Theater and Symphony X. With Dream Theater, my favorite album is Scenes from a Memory. Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. But the album before that was Falling into Infinity, which isn't my favorite of theirs. It's still pretty good. My favorite Dream Theater 3-album run might be Train of Thought to Octavarium to Systematic Chaos. But it's just not as strong as these other runs that I'm talking about. And then Symphony X, I'd probably pick The Odyssey to Paradise Lost to Iconoclast. Hard. Really, they have a lot of great 3-album runs as well, but they just didn't quite make my top 10. So my number 2 is Protest the Hero with Kazaya, my favorite album of all time. The album that got me into prog metal. Awesome concept album. I think I have a whole video on my channel about where I go do a deep dive review on this. And then Fortress, their second album, featuring their most popular song, which is Blood Meat. So I think this was kind of their best selling album. If I had to guess, I don't recall all the sales numbers. And then their third is Scurrilous, which I actually love. Maybe some people didn't like it as much. It didn't have as much of the harsh vocals as their first 2. So if you don't like the harsh vocals as much, this might actually be the best Protest the Hero album for you to start with. Or this or Palimpsest, their newest, doesn't have as much either. There's still a little bit on each, but their first 2 albums have a lot more harsh vocals than this. But I love some tracks on here. I mean, Dunzel is probably my favorite Protest the Hero song, and it's on this album. And C'est la Vie is an awesome opener. Really, everything is awesome. These are all masterpiece albums, and I'm really excited for their new album dropping later this week on Friday, July 17th. And then my favorite 3-album run of all time is by Between the Buried and Me, and it's the one that starts with Colors, which is my favorite Between the Buried and Me album, and probably my second favorite album of all time after Kazaya. Again, it could probably beat Kazaya some days. It's kind of a big fight between those 2 as to what's my favorite album of all time. That was followed up by The Great Misdirect, which is also amazing. And it's kind of like the whole Periphery thing where like maybe, the later Periphery albums you could say might actually be technically then like objectively better than what came before. But so maybe this is even better than Colors, but Colors just has a special place in my heart. But like musicianship, production, and technicality and composition wise, like if you just think about the skill required on this, they've all improved upon what they did in Colors, and they made an epic like Swim to the Moon, and it's like just flows like an amazing journey, just like Colors does as well. Yeah, like technically speaking, maybe it's better, but I still kind of like Colors better. It's got a special place in my heart. And then the third album to complete it was Parallax 2, which again, technically speaking, is probably better than both the two that came before it, and is just like an amazingly cohesive concept album. Probably my second favorite between the Buried in Me album after Colors, and Great Misdirect is probably my third favorite. So these are kind of my three favorite B2BAM albums, so they all came right in a row, and pretty much cements Between the Buried in Me as being my favorite band of all time now, with their amazing output, because even the things they've done after this have all been amazing. And that doesn't even count what came. There was a little EP that came in between Great Misdirect and Parallax 2, which is called Parallax 1, which is also mind-blowingly amazing. Of course, that doesn't count because I'm not counting EPs. But if you throw that in there, that just is the cherry on top, the icing on the cake. Between the Buried in Me, Colors, Great Misdirect, and Parallax 2, where it's my favorite 3-album run. Hope you enjoyed this video. Just an excuse for me to talk about what my favorite 3-album runs are, and a lot of these are in the prog metal space, of course. Pretty much all of them, except I wouldn't really call Thank You Scientist prog metal. They're more prog rock. They have like a little bit of metal from time to time, but more like prog rock with some jazz fusion, like prog rock with horns, some metal riffing and crazy guitar solos, and like some almost emo, catchy pop punk kind of vocals. Thank You Scientist will have you covered there. And then Rush isn't really metal. They're more on the classic prog rock. But they have some heavier moments too. So that's kind of the stuff that I like. What are your favorite 3-album runs? Let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll do another video like this where I think about the best 4-album runs, or the best 2-album runs, if you even consider 2 a run, or the best 5-album runs. I could see this turning into a series if people like this kind of content. And if you like metal, rock, and prog music, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay in the loop on when I post new videos. My next video will probably be, the only ones that I really have plans for are my new music picks 2026. So I'll be talking about my first impressions of new music from Protest the Hero, Haken, Psychroptic, Loathe, and Motionless in White, and maybe some others that I don't know about yet if I hear about anything else good coming out in the next week or so. Other than that, not sure what my next videos will be on the channel, so if you have any ideas for what you want to see me talk about, also let me know down in the comments, and peace out.